On 29 March 1461, near Towton in North Yorkshire, England, two armies met in a battle that helped decide the Wars of the Roses. Its scale, weather, and consequences still make it one of medieval England's defining moments. Towton mattered because it was not only a clash of armies, but a test of who would rule England. The result strengthened one branch of the royal family and reshaped the kingdom's political future. The conflict grew from a fragile monarchy, noble rivalries, and repeated reversals of loyalty. By 1461, the struggle for the throne had become a national crisis, not a court dispute. England had already seen victories, defeats, and shifting claims to legitimacy. Each success encouraged new supporters, while each setback deepened fear, revenge, and uncertainty across the realm. The opposing leaders were young men under immense pressure, surrounded by advisors, family claims, and armies they could not easily abandon. Their authority depended on winning, not merely surviving. Around them stood experienced nobles, household soldiers, archers, and retainers, each with personal loyalties and private fears. In medieval war, leadership was as much about reputation as command. The armies were large by English standards, made up of men with bows, bills, spears, and a smaller number of mounted troops. Supply was basic, and morale could change quickly in bad weather. Many soldiers were not professional warriors, but local men drawn into a national struggle. They marched with limited food, worn clothing, and the knowledge that the coming battle could decide their future. The road to Towton brought both armies through Yorkshire's lanes, villages, and open country. Movement was slow, and every river crossing or muddy track added strain before the fighting even began. Towton's battlefield lay on exposed ground, where wind and snowfall could dominate the day. The terrain offered little shelter, and that mattered as much as numbers or weapons. The weather turned brutal, with cold wind and falling snow reducing visibility and making arrows harder to judge. In such conditions, discipline and endurance could matter more than bravado. One side likely favored a direct, aggressive approach, using pressure and momentum to unsettle the enemy line. The other hoped position, archery, and patience might hold the field. Before the main clash, archers would have tested range and nerve across the frozen air. Even when casualties were limited, the psychological effect of massed arrows could be severe. As the battle settled into its opening phase, both sides struggled to keep formation in the snow and wind. Visibility shifted constantly, making command difficult and small mistakes costly. The fighting then pressed toward the center, where the strongest men and best-equipped troops were concentrated. Medieval battles often turned on whether the middle could hold under repeated stress. At Towton, the pressure point came as one army faced intense strain in the middle of the field. Once a line began to bend, nearby units could lose confidence almost at once. Reinforcements and reserve troops mattered, but they were not always enough to restore control. In a battle of this size, timing could be more important than raw strength. The decisive movement likely came when one side gained a local advantage and pushed forward with greater confidence. That kind of shift could ripple outward faster than commanders could react. Once momentum changed, the battle became harder to control. Men near the front saw others falling back, and a retreat in one sector could become a general collapse. Towton's scale meant the collapse was not tidy or immediate. Some groups fought on stubbornly, while others tried to escape across difficult ground in the worsening weather. The result was a decisive victory for the side that held the field. In medieval terms, holding the ground at day's end was the clearest proof of success. Afterward, the field was filled with exhaustion, confusion, and the grim work of gathering the dead and wounded. Even without graphic detail, the scale of loss would have been unmistakable. The immediate political impact was enormous. The victors advanced their claim to the throne, while their opponents faced flight, loss of power, and the unraveling of alliances. For ordinary people, the battle meant more than dynastic change. It brought requisitions, fear, disrupted travel, and the long shadow of a conflict that had reached deep into local life. In the years that followed, the winning faction used the victory to strengthen its rule and reward supporters. Yet the wider struggle for stability in England did not vanish overnight. Towton also showed how quickly medieval fortunes could turn. A single battle could elevate a claimant, silence rivals, and redirect the course of governance for a generation. Historians still qualify many details because the sources are uneven and often partisan. Exact troop numbers, battlefield movements, and command decisions remain partly reconstructed. That uncertainty does not lessen the battle's importance. Instead, it reminds us that medieval warfare survives in the record through fragments, bias, and careful interpretation. Some debate centers on where particular actions unfolded across the field. The broad outcome is secure, but the exact choreography of the fighting cannot be known with complete certainty. Other historians focus on weather, terrain, and morale as the true deciding factors. At Towton, the environment was not a backdrop. It was part of the battle itself. Today, the battlefield is a place of memory rather than noise. Visitors can still read the landscape even if the medieval armies are long gone. Standing there, the scale becomes easier to imagine than to fully grasp. The openness of the ground helps explain why weather and formation mattered so much. The battle endures in history because it joined political crisis, human endurance, and environmental hardship in one extraordinary day. Few medieval encounters are remembered with such clarity. It also endures because the consequences were immediate and lasting. Towton helped determine who could rule, who would fall, and how fragile power remained in late medieval England. The battle's memory is shaped by both certainty and doubt. Certainty about its importance, doubt about some of its details. That combination is what makes historical study essential. Towton remains a reminder that history is often decided in conditions no one can fully control. Leadership, weather, terrain, and morale all converged on that frozen March day.